For more on the legacy of presidents, both current and past, is a man who's known and worked with quite a few of them. Former Reagan administration official Hugh Hewitt, host of the Hugh Hewitt Show. Hugh, great to see you. Thanks for being here. I'm going to talk about this snide remark of President Biden in just a moment. But first, on Donald Trump's memories of Jimmy Carter. And he worked with him as a businessman, and he knew him fairly well. Here's what he said on Truth Social. He said, the challenges Jimmy faced as president came at a pivotal time for our country, and he did everything in his power to improve the lives of all Americans. For that, we all owe him a debt of gratitude. And then a little later on, he followed that with this. While I strongly disagreed with Carter philosophically and politically, I also realized that he truly loved and respected our country and all it stands for. You want to talk about these? That's a pretty decent memory of Jimmy Carter from a guy who disagreed with him quite a bit, isn't it?
It is very gracious, David, and a Happy New Year in advance to you. I thought very gracious by President Trump. I'm not so sure that Joe Biden's stab at a comment in the Virgin Islands, decency, wasn't aimed at Donald Trump rather than at the eulogizing of Jimmy Carter. In fact, it was indecent what he did with the 37 murderers whose sentences he commuted. The President Biden, is not capable of discharging the office right now. He ought to have resigned more than a year ago, as the Wall Street Journal reported earlier this month. And I think what we are seeing is a man fairly desperate to do something that is a signature accomplishment. Jimmy Carter did die knowing he hadn't been the worst president of the post-war period. Joe Biden is that. But the decency comment following the commutations, a little bit tough. Actually, a lot of tough to swallow that one,
yeah,
David.
Well, I'll say. But what Trump said about Carter coming in a pivotal moment, I think is appropriate for what we're going through right now. I mean, Carter came in the shadow of Watergate. People didn't trust the government. Of course, they didn't trust the president under Nixon, but they also had problems with what the FBI was or wasn't doing politically, which is what's happening now as well. We had the Church Committee to investigate it. In the past several years, we've had committees in Congress under Republican leadership looking into what exactly Biden did. So there are a lot of similarities. And to Carter's credit, he really did. He did, I think, as much as any president could coming out of Watergate to reinvigorate a little trust leading into the Reagan administration, no?
Except, David, for his inability. The thing that defines Jimmy Carter is naivete. He was naive about the mullahs. He was naive about Khomeini. He was naive about the Soviets,
about the Sandinistas in Nicaragua,
I'm old enough to remember. Yeah, but his last year was very good. After the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, he kind of woke up to the fact that they were bad guys. He saw what was happening in Tehran. He began a defense buildup. Inflation, interest rates killed him off. The pivot we need now is the pivot that Reagan made away from Carterism, and I think that Trump will make away from Bidenism, which is failure in understanding the complexities of the world and the fact that they're, in fact, evil people who mean us great harm. I also have to note for the record, David, in his retirement, he did very good things with Habitat for Humanity, Jimmy Carter, and very bad things vis-a-vis Israel, calling it an apartheid state.
That's true.
Accusing a minority of Israelis wanting to be avarice for Palestinian land. I mean, the guy never stopped insulting Israel in his retirement. So it's a balancing always, a lot of good, a lot of bad with all of them.
Well, before we give up with Biden and move on to Donald Trump, I have to mention what happened last week, which was the issuance of these photographs by America First Legal. They're the ones that brought it to the court. They won the court argument. These photographs were released from Vice President Biden's introduction of his son Hunter, not only to President Xi, but also to a lot of his future business associates, for all the talk that we heard that mostly was supported by the media from Joe Biden during this presidency, that he had nothing to do, that he didn't know what his son was doing with regard to China. He was introducing his son to his to his future colleagues and certainly to President Xi himself.
In President Biden's defense, he probably doesn't remember doing that, David. The Robert Hur special counsel investigation, which said he's, a genial old man with a poor memory, is a kind way of saying he is not all there. He's impaired, both physically and mentally, and therefore he's off the hook for a lot of this stuff. I do not want the president-elect to turn the Justice Department loose on the Biden family. I hope we look forward like he did in the first term. He didn't go after Hillary Clinton. I don't think he's going to. I think it's been campaign rhetoric. But the evidence is piling up for the historians to sift through that this is a corrupt presidency as well as a failed one.
Well, and there's one picture in particular, I don't know if we can get it, where Vice President Biden is introducing President Xi to his son Hunter. And can you put up that photo? Because Xi has this look. No, that's not the one. It's of Biden and Xi. No, that's not the one. You'll get it. It's just four guys in the picture. Anyway, Xi is sizing up.
I know the picture.
Hunter Biden and clearly realizing, boy, oh boy, have I got the U.S. presidency this time.
Yeah, it's like saying the word Mark on the forehead of Hunter and Joe.
Excuse me, Hugh. That's the picture that you're seeing on the left. No. Go back to the picture. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's Xi Jinping, who Donald Trump knows well and knows is ruthless and completely vicious and absolutely Machiavellian, looking at the diminished Joe Biden and the hapless Hunter Biden and saying, Mark, and using all of his wiles and all of the tools of the Chinese Communist Party to put them in his debt. I don't know that they were controlled by him, but I do believe that they are compromised in ways that we will only learn over decades and decades. David, it's a real tragedy that the media went on a vacation for 4 years with Joe Biden. Legacy media has a lot to answer for the covering up. I know you weren't involved, and I know that a lot of people on the network called it out like I did on my radio show. But everything about Joe Biden has been obvious from day one, but the legacy media has been protecting him. They're like his front, they're blocking guards and tackles.
I don't know how they ever recover from this. So that leads us to President Trump. And of course, he has a legacy from his first term. He got the tax cuts in. We had a booming economy. He got the Abraham Accords in, which was a tremendous accomplishment of peace in the Middle East. He closed the border essentially down to all but those migrants that deserved to be coming in and did so legally. But then came the pandemic, and it kind of destroyed a lot. Will he be able to redevelop his legacy as president in this second term?
I'm very optimistic. We have to add to that the greatest upset win in American political history, 2016. The greatest comeback in politics in 2024, surpassing my old boss and his old friend, Richard Nixon. We got to talk about the Trump boom, the economic growth that was everywhere until the Chinese unleashed COVID out of the lab upon the whole world, and 1.2 million Americans died. But he did get Operation Warp Speed up and running, as you said, the right to try law, the First Step law. Trump got a lot done, but there's a lot more to be done with the Navy, with the wall, with deregulating everything. So I'm very optimistic about the next 4 years. And his energy level is off the charts.
Oh, it's
I really
unbelievable.
have not seen anyone with that kind of sort of life force in him. It's not Joe Biden hobbling around into the jungles in Brazil or being guided about by the elbow in Italy by the prime minister there. It's a completely confident, very experienced, and this time aware of the fact that a lot of the permanent bureaucracy want to just knife him in the back. It won't happen twice.
No, it won't. And by the way, we got Victor Davis Hanson at the end of the show to talk more about that, the vibrancy of the second Trump term. Hugh Hewitt, great to see you. Very happy New Year to you and yours. Appreciate you being here.